Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the SITREP or the summary for the day 2 of this Hamas-Israeli conflict. So there is a lot of things that happened over the past 24 hours, and the information is actually very complicated when you put everything together. And in fact, this is actually the third time I try to record this, third time. Because as I report, I find it very messy, so I have to re-record again. So I decided to do this so that you can understand. So we'll split up the front line into, this is the southern front, eastern front, and this part is the northern front. And then there's also, of course, within Gaza, things that happen within Gaza. So this is the south, east, and north. And then on top of that, we're gonna have West Bank, and then we're gonna have the Lebanon Israeli border. So we start off with the situation within Gaza itself. Israel has launched massive airstrikes, and the level of airstrike is actually probably even heavier than what we see in the Ukraine war. And of these airstrikes, of significance is the leader of Hamas, Ayman Yunis, has been reportedly killed, and apparently his body was found, and this information is likely to be correct and accurate. So he was killed in his home. So, and he's not the only Hamas leader that was killed off. The other leaders include Mohammed Nizal Avazullah, the son of Nizal Avazullah, the senior Hamas leader, as well as Hamdan El-Najjar Abul-Zaki, which is the director of the tribal office at the Palestinian Interior Ministry. So all of them are killed in their homes, which is actually very interesting, because I would think that the leaders will probably gather in certain HQ and safe from airstrikes, but they are all at home. So, and yeah, so pretty much based on the footages that I've seen, the streets of Gaza is largely a bit like COVID-19 era. Everybody's staying at home because it's very dangerous out there, with Israelis conducting massive airstrikes. For example, the airstrike over at Beit Hanan. At Beit Hanan, Israel reported, the Israel Defense Forces reported that they struck 120 targets in 3 different airstrikes, three different sorties of airstrikes, and which means that they dropped at least 120 bombs. That's quite crazy. That's a lot of bombs. And they mentioned about their rationale about why they hit this area of Beit Hanan, basically because this is actually where the Palestinian forces actually attack from, one of these forward operating base, if you like. And the other one was actually in the region within Gaza, in the Shejaya region of the Gaza city. And in this area here, they also dropped at least 150 bombs. So they say that they struck 150 targets. So imagine the intensity of the airstrike. This is a very Western style of military operation that we don't really see during the Ukraine war. As we have covered, we don't really see this intensity of bombing. But of course, we can also understand, because Gaza, the Hamas forces don't really have the surface-to-air missiles to prevent the Israeli aircraft from bombing at will. So that's it for the situation within Gaza city itself. There is, of course, a lot of rocket launches. There's a lot of airstrikes, but generally those are not very, very important, because it doesn't change the strategic picture. Over in the southern front in the Gaza region, so there is before I go into the front line, I need to highlight all these blue color human icons. This is actually all the different settlements that the Israeli Defense Forces has announced that they will conduct evacuation. So it is a huge number of locations, from Nahal Oz, Nil Mephalsim, all the way, basically all this, every icon. I'm not going to go through all the names because it's going to be very boring, because you probably do not know where are these places, and looking at the map probably is enough. And given with all these locations, you can see that it basically goes all around the Gaza Strip, and this actually shows the buffer zone that the Israeli want to set up from the military positions, and so they will have the secure position, which I actually indicate as this. While I put this polygon or this drawing of front line of the Israeli side, the Israeli forces is actually not exactly there. I just want to highlight this is just an indication of where the Israeli want their front line to be, and where else they're going to evacuate everyone around Gaza, and they're probably going to push in later. However, this counterattack did not come in day 2. They are still mobilizing, they are still organizing. The main bulk of the operation by the Israeli side is in terms of airstrikes and standoff operations, where the Israeli forces are holding positions much further away from Gaza. So in fact, most of these regions that they are supposed to go in to evacuate people, they have not entered just yet. Some of these places they are just unable to reach there, and in some other places they see very heavy fighting. So we go from the southern front first. In the southern front, we have reinforcement being reported at Holit as well as Sufa. These two locations yesterday in day 1 actually saw reports of fighting in this region here, and so the reinforcement was successfully being sent. Which color should I do? I should do this color. I'm not sure if you can see well in green. So they sent reinforcement in the night and managed to reinforce their position around Sufa and hold it. And interestingly, they also launched some rocket strikes against near Yitzhak. So I'm not sure if this is an indication of Israeli presence within near Izzat, whereas the Palestinians are around at Sufa and Holit. I'm not too sure, but the launching of rockets at this settlement might suggest that the Israelis might be there. Because there is also no clear signs that the Palestinians managed to fully capture Kerem Shalom. So there's a possibility that the Israeli forces are also at least somewhere around this area here. But we do have this information coming from Palestinian sources, actually directly from Hamas official military communicate. They mentioned that they have sent in reinforcement into Yatir. So Yatir is actually over here. This is Yatir, and which means that this settlement or this village over here has been captured by the Hamas forces. So with this, we can see that the Hamas forces is actually building some kind of a more stable position that they want to defend, and they are sending reinforcement to secure the position. And we have to imagine that the Hamas troops will have poorer logistics as compared to a proper military organization like the Israeli Defense Force. So it is important to watch whether they did solve military logistic, ensuring that their fighters that is out there in the front line get to eat, get to drink, get rotated. I'm not sure if they're going to do that, because this kind of rebel forces do often just do suicide missions. So I'm not sure if they have the military logistics to keep up with these operations. So the situation in this southern part is very tricky, because we don't have enough information. We can only do conjectures that Israelis might be at near Yitzhak as well as at this Kerem Shalom. So anyway, otherwise we don't have any other information about this. And then we further up north, I think it's north, there is a drone strike reported at near Oz. So according to the IDF, they actually used the drone to attack several soldiers of the Hamas forces over in this near Oz, and there is fighting being reported at Magan. So according to Palestinian sources, they mentioned that there is fierce clash over at Magan. So that means we might have Israeli forces that is actually at Megan. They managed to reinforce this location, and they are actually met by the Hamas forces and Megan, and that's where the fighting is, because you have to have, if you there is reports of clashes, means the Israelis are there, so which means that yeah, it's one of these points that we will need to watch in the front lines. And as you can see, the main operation by the Israelis are mainly using Air Force, so the drone strike is just a sign of what they are doing. Further up north, we have some confirmation of sort. The Hezbollah is the Lebanese, which is allies of the Hamas, reported that Kisufim has been captured, full control under the Hamas. So this is interesting. However, Palestinian sources reported that there is fighting over at Kisufim. So I'm not sure which one is the accurate one. So we shall see how this goes. There could be a possibility that the Israelis have sent in forces to do evacuation of Kisufim, and that's when they met the Hamas forces that is actually roaming around at Kisufim. So that could be the case. Reinforcement was also being the forces that was previously over at the Riem military base. So yesterday, the Hamas forces actually raided. They entered into this military base, where some of these footages actually got sent go viral or sent around by the Hamas supporters. According to the information from Palestine Resist, they reported that after the Al-Aqsa Brigade fighters take control of the military base, they actually returned to the Gaza Strip after carrying out their duties, basically killing the Israeli soldiers that is actually based there, or and robbing or stealing whatever is in the military base. I'm not sure. And so basically, the operation was a raid. They raided the military base and then they withdraw back into Gaza Strip. So which means that the Hamas forces is actually not here. So which is why the front line is actually not drawn all the way to the Riem military base. There is no indication of the Hamas forces at Riem. So which is why I did not put the green front line all the way to Riem. And there's a possibility that this entire area here, there is actually no real control by anyone in these places, because there's no proper settlement around that area. So and we continue on over at Be'eri. At Be'eri, there is fighting being reported over here, despite that yesterday it was reported to have been captured by this Palestinian forces. So that's very interesting that that suddenly fighting is over here, which means that maybe reinforcement has arrived, that the Israelis have actually arrived at Be'eri and Be'eri, and the Palestinian forces actually clashes with them to fight over this place. And this place is clearly heavily fought over, because airstrike was actually reported over at Be'eri. There is also fighting being reported over the next settlement over at Shekeda. Shekeda is actually being reportedly fought by the airborne forces of the Hamas forces. So the Hamas allegedly have some paratroopers that was being, I'm not sure how they even fly at the first place, so it could be the same one, that there is the paraglider rather than just parachute. So they managed to land maybe somewhere close to Shekeda, and they actually entered into battle with the Israeli forces that is currently in this area here, as the Israelis are trying to push and form up this front line that I've drawn, where you're gonna evacuate, right? So this is where the front line is gonna be, where they're gonna keep this entire area here as the battle zone. So yeah, so that's what is happening. The fighting is over these two places, and and it's interesting that they didn't talk about the evacuation of even further places. So the Israelis are being a bit confident only the settlements that is just next to Gaza. And as we move on from Be'eri, maybe Be'eri we can put it as under the Eastern Front, because it is a bit far from the rest, and it's much closer to the steroid cluster of incidents. So we should, okay, so Be'eri we put it under the Eastern Front, and now we've moved on further up north of this front. We have fighting being reported at Ulumin, but the word here is Avochim, which is probably a misspelling, or it could be somewhere else that I'm not too sure. So I cannot find this place, and I think the closest is actually Ulumin, which actually makes more sense. And we also have fighting being reported at Sa'ad. The one at Sa'ad is actually paratroopers, the airborne forces, and we also have fighting being reported at Kfar Aza. So Kfar Aza, information of the fighting over here is actually corroborated by the IDF. So IDF reported about taking out 7 of these Hamas troops. So this is actually very interesting. That means there must be there's some breach over here that the Hamas forces can continue to land over here, and they actually also have airborne forces to conduct the clash over at Sa'ad. But for them to actually fight here also means that the Israelis are around this area here. So the Israelis have actually arrived in this region here, but they are not yet at Nahal Oz. That's why we do not have any fighting being reported at Nahal Oz. The front line is pretty much around this area here, with the Israeli forces swarming into this area here. However, there is airborne forces or troops, or Hamas troops, fighting into the rear positions, so into this area here. So let's move out a bit. So in these rear positions, we have at Tukuma, as well as Azura, as well as Netivot, all seeing fightings. The one at Azura is actually the airborne forces. Tikuma is not really mentioned to be airborne forces. They only mentioned as resistant fighters. So I suspect that the Hamas forces actually go down this road. They went down this highway. They swarmed into Tikuma, so that they went into battle at Netivot. Whereas at Azura, they actually land airborne forces in this area here. So for the Israelis to actually conduct operations and fighting over at Sa'ad, Alumin, and further up over here, it also means that the Israelis are actually attacking from some other regions here, and then there was this certain breakthrough by fast vehicles, because that's what the Hamas forces are doing. They do very fast penetrating runs into the rear positions, which actually mess up everything and create massive chaos on the rear positions of the Israeli side. So this is probably what is happening over in this area here, and as such, the front line is actually only like this, because the ground forces push is only around this area here, and actually there's a lot of gray zone around this area, because these fighters that actually attack all the way to Netivot might be actually just a squad amount, like maybe 10 people, 20 people. So it may not be a big force to actually hold ground. So most of these are just very gray zone, and for this kind of airborne attacks, these are all very small numbers. 3 people, 2 people, maybe even 1 people. So we're not going to do any front line around them. This airborne operation previously was reported over at Ofakim and maybe at Mishma Hanayev, but this too is not reported anymore. So probably the forces that was fighting over there has been eliminated or captured. There was other fighting also being reported at Se'ilim. This Se'ilim is a bit far from the front line, so most likely this is actually also either airborne, or they might be some of those Hamas troops that actually drive really fast into the rear region and then conduct their operations. We continue to move north of this area here. There is attacks being reported at Mefasim. Mefasim is actually also getting bombarded by the Hamas forces. So from this area on, this entire area here, the Hamas forces doesn't seem to have very firm control over in this area here. This area here, the Hamas don't seem very confident as they launch massive rocket strikes over at Mefasim, Neoam, Sderot, Erez, as well as a native Ha'asara. So all these regions all got bombarded by rocket strikes. These rocket strikes, despite they launch artillery strikes on this area here, there is actually fighting on the ground, especially as Sderot. There is fighting over here. The IDF actually mentioned that they told the residents to stay indoors because the situation is still not safe, and Palestine resist actually reported that the Palestinian fighters are still fighting over in this town over here. So there is still threats of this Hamas forces over in Sderot, where the Israeli forces are definitely inside of Sderot because they are fighting over in this area here. And in front of Mefasim, there is no fighting being reported here. There is only an attack being reported. So it looks like the Israelis are still not there yet. They still cannot just go in yet because of the threat on the ground. So we move on into the northern front. In the northern front of this Gaza Strip, we have confirmation of the capture of the Erez checkpoint. Footages has came out to show that they have full control over these places, but it was the raid. I'm not sure if they stay or they just retreated from the checkpoint, but I think they will keep it open, so I think they will have men holding the checkpoint. There is a bombardment reported at the native Ha'asara, as I mentioned earlier, and there is also no statement from Hamas about their amphibious operation on day one. They mentioned about their commandos, their naval commandos participate in this operation. They have some video showing them going onto their boats and sailing away, but of course they're not going to show later ones because they got fired upon by the Israeli Navy. So according to the information, they say that they landed in the beaches south of Ascalon and then conducted their operation until they lose their life, and some of them reportedly still fight until this moment. So as I mentioned, their commando units, the airborne units, all these are suicide soldiers, so they're going to fight all the way to the end, and that's actually what happened. So in this area here, after they landed, they conduct operations out. This is what they did. And so in the latest information, we have a resumption of fighting again over at the Zikim military base. So in the latest information, there is new raids being reported over this area here, and this time around fighting also reached Kamiya. And so which means this time around, I think they probably landed more troops in this area here, and then fighting over at Zikim, and then they actually head over to Kamiya. We're not sure if they are conducting fighting over at this area here in Zikim. I'm not too sure. And there is also no clear indication of the Palestinian forces actually, going into the power station region. Power station region here, there is some fire, very big fire burning because they got hit by the rockets in the first day of the war. And furthermore, in the north, the Hamas forces are conducting some raiding, some major raids by driving cars very, very fast into the rear, and this actually was reported at Mefkim. So at Mefkim, there is this report of the fighters seizing a vehicle from the Israeli soldiers, and then they just drove off. So in a separate report, at least 15 Israeli was killed in the battles over in this town at Mefkim. So then these guys from Hamas, actually they drove all the way up to Ashkelon region. They drove, and then they got killed. Yeah, they got killed somewhere around the Ashkelon region, if I'm not wrong. or is it they all the way to Ashdod? No, they went all the way to Ashdod. Sorry. So they drove all the way to Ashdod, and then they got killed. So that's what happened. So Ashdod is actually pretty far away, so you can see how fast they drive. And there is also fighting being reported at Ashkelon. According to the latest information, the commandos this time round landed again, and this time round fighting near Ashkelon. But the information is very unclear. It could be referring to the same one over at Sikkim. So, take it with a pinch of salt. And there is also shelling being reported at Ashkelon by rocket attacks. So that's all from the Gaza region. So the Gaza region. We move into the West Bank. In the West Bank, the resistance or the Palestinian fighters or resistance movements continue their support of the operation over at Gaza, with some fighting being reported at Beit Fajr and also at Tuku, which it's not very important because all this is just I would say I just have to report because it actually happened. And they attack in this area. What color should I put, man? Can't see. Green. Yeah. So in these two areas here, and there is no more things over at the eastern part of Jerusalem. What the challenge, the disturbance for the Israeli now move to the north of Jerusalem with Pesagod as well as Klandia, and another one at Beit Ija. So you can see that this is going to create a operational nightmare for the Israelis, because they have to kind of guess where all these fighters going to appear, and then they have to navigate through peaceful protests. There are also violent protests, which are riots, and then there are also young guys just burning houses and police stations and then whatnot. So things are very, very confusing and very messy over in the West Bank. Further up, over in the, I'm not sure if this is called the Jenin region, just northeast of Tel Aviv, there is also some shooting being reported at Keklia. At the checkpoint, the soldiers over at the checkpoint was fired upon. There is also firing. They also fired upon at Azun, which is further inside within the West Bank. And further up north, over in the other crossing, there is also fighting being reported near Nitzane Oz. And there is further up in another crossing over at Jalama checkpoint, there was also the Israeli soldiers are also being fired upon. So you can see it is very tricky. Imagine you have to plan all the operation and dealing with the security situation. It must be one hell of a nightmare. And now we go into the Lebanon Israeli border. So in a major statement, Hezbollah announced that they go into a war footing, into the war alert. They are ready to begin the final battle on the United Front. But this is, as I mentioned yesterday in the headlines reports, or in the SITREP, I think I also mentioned that Hezbollah is unlikely to go into battle in a real way, like invading into Israel, and don't think they will do it. So this is probably just an action in terms of solidarity to show, to just put on a show to show Hamas and the rest of the Arab or pro-Palestine world that they are on the same side and they're going to do something. So they did something. So what they did is that they actually do missile strikes. No, not missile strike. Yeah, missile strike. Anti-tank guided missiles and also mortars to attack Israeli positions. So over at this communication tower north of Matat or Hufesh, and also then another one over at this military position just west of Mount Hermon. So this was the one a bit. I think both footages were actually went viral. And then the Israeli actually reacted. According to the IDF, they say that they fired warning shots against suspects in the area of this Hadov region, which is actually this area here, west of Mount Hermon. So basically, they basically firing at Hezbollah people. But no, this just no, it's just a skirmish. This is actually not something that is very particularly worrying. And if you look at this area here, this is actually very mountainous. So one of this area is this one. There is this communication tower. This one you can see. This was actually fired upon by the Hezbollah troops. You can see this actually on the hill. So the other one is actually much taller. It's actually in this mountain region. So there's a Mount Hermon, and so there is this military installation over here. Basically, effectively inside Lebanon in a way that is controlled by the Israeli. And in this position, they got attacked by anti-tank guided missile as well, mortar. But this is a very strategic position. You can see that it overlooks the entire region here. They can see everything. Yeah, but they also can be shot by everyone. So that's what that's the situation over the north. I thought that it's very interesting to show the terrain over this area here, in the area, because it's just way more complicated than this flat ground. This is super flat, super flat. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. If you want me to continue to report on this, do press the like button and comment below and let me know what you think about the situation. And I'll see you in the next update.